You're chasing someone down a murky sewer when, out of the black sludge, something starts to emerge. In your way stands a giant mutant cockroach. Then a few chapters later you're playing baseball with it as it steals third base, and wait, are those Jordans? This is the world of Dorohedoro. Imagine for a moment being a manga reader during the 2000s or 2010s. You could read One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, maybe Vagabond or Berserk if you're feeling existential. Or you could read Dorohedoro. Just looking at the cover art, you can tell something's different. Instead of a vibrant cast of characters or a detailed close-up, you get this. Somebody that looks like they've come straight from Chernobyl. And after you start reading, this feeling doesn't stop. The artwork is gritty, the line work scratchy. To the point that when the author, Q Hayashida, used to show her mother her artwork, her mother would laugh at her and question if she really thought she could go to college for art. Damn.
Emotional damage!
But it would be this exact art style that would make Dorohedoro stand out and a part of why it's so beloved. From its color pages that brim with creative mixed media, to the volume art and character designs. I don't think there's quite any other manga that can really compare. Plus, I mean, how can you compete with a giant Jordan's wearing cockroach? Johnson Best Girl. Though having interesting visuals and wacky characters is one thing, but what is Dorohedoro actually about? Dorohedoro in a way is about racism. Okay, maybe not exactly racism, but classism. In the world of Dorohedoro, there are two kinds of people. Those who can use magic, and those who get magic used on them. The place that these victims of magic reside, a realm called the Hole. Its atmosphere forever warped by the smoke that comes from when sorcerers cast their spells. The people of this place, struggling day by day, hoping not to be the next victim. We follow one of these people, Kaiman, a lizard-headed human, and his best friend Nikaido, as they try to survive and hunt down the sorcerer that turned Kaiman into Mark Zuckerberg, which, to be fair, if I woke up one day looking like that, I would also be asking a few questions. The biggest question of all for Kaiman being one we all face: who am I? You see, there are a few things off about Kaiman, besides just a lizard head. Why does magic not work on him? What are these markings on his eyes? And why are they eerily similar to the ones on the person inside his head? Wait, why does he have another person inside his head? What happened in this alleyway? And most puzzling of all, why can't he remember any of it? In this way, we and Kaiman are in the same position, left in the dark with what's actually going on, finding out answers bit by bit, and oh boy, do those answers go to some very interesting places. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. What makes Dorohedoro so unique is that while there are enough mysteries and dark questions to make the average person go to a lifetime of therapy, and every chapter blood and guts is spilling out everywhere, the story stays pretty lighthearted. Chapters can end on what can only be described as depression in its purest form, but most of the time, they just end with some random joke. This almost absurd indifference is shared by Kaiman, who half the time seems more interested in grabbing a bite more than anything else. Including when Kaiman and Nikaido's search leads them to chase down a sorcerer named Ebisu, who specializes in reptile magic, eventually cornering her. But before they can get any answers from her, a sorcerer's door appears, and she's suddenly grabbed away, just without most of her face. The person who took her being the same person, Fujita, that they had fought at the start, now in the quest of revenge for his dead partner, previously pursuing Kaiman, American style, with an SMG. Ebisu being the link to finding out Kaiman's weakness. Now being targeted by some Pinocchio looking dude would hardly matter if not for the fact of who his boss was, N. A sorcerer so powerful that he can turn entire cities into a forest of mushrooms, and whose influence is so great in the magic realm that he's basically a mob boss. His giant mansion an embodiment of how far he's come from being a child slave and thrown into hell. Oh god, I forgot how dark this series can get. To now being one of the most powerful sorcerers in the world. For N, nothing more important than finding out the truth of what happened years ago, when all that he worked for could have come crumbling down. That day, going toe to toe with somebody that had a cross eye. Only making out of there alive by using the whole town as collateral. His hunt for the cross eyes serving only to answer the one thing that's always on his mind. Is the person who nearly killed him really dead? Recently, Kaiman's been going through something. They began to get these strange, horrific even dreams. Dreams of people he can't seem to recognize, events he doesn't understand, of a past he can't remember. Though at first he thinks of them as nothing more but the usual nightmares, you can only brush off your past for so long. Because what if who you truly are hurts the one closest to you? Mikado has been Kaiman's closest friend ever since the start of his memory, she being the one who originally found him and gave him his name, as well as being probably the sole reason he's fed. Even though on the surface she's Kaiman's biggest supporter, Mikado has one very big secret. She's a sorcerer. The very being all of the people of the whole hate, and a being which Kaiman has killed countless without much remorse. And not just any sorcerer, but a time sorcerer, one of the rarest and most powerful sorcerers that could exist in the world. However, it will be this exact reason that she stopped using magic. When Mikado was just a young sorcerer, and living in the sorcerer's realm, she would be raised by an elderly couple and her brother, Kawajiri, her strength in combat coming from the training she got from her best friend, Yakumo, a girl the elderly couple saved from floating down the river. Everything was great until she discovered her magic. At first, it was nothing much, but one day, when she was alone and practicing, she would briefly go back in time. It seemed like just a short moment. But when she came back, she found out just how important that moment was. After that day, Mikado vowed never to use her magic again, in fear of the same fate that happened to her best friend, befalling the ones closest to her now. That's why it's all more tragic that, in trying to hide her past, she would end up in the crosshairs of the one person who wanted her power the most. If you haven't noticed already, Dorohedoro is obsessed with the past, Mikado running away from it, and running towards it, and Kaiman somewhere in between. None of them totally satisfied with where they are, haunted by what has happened and what could happen because of it. I don't know about you, but that's just the realest shit to me. Because getting older just kinda sucks. All of a sudden you got all these responsibilities and forms. You wonder where did all the time go? And wait, have I written that very important business email? And oh god, why are taxes so complicated? Then you think back and wonder about all the things you could have done, who you could have been, and all your regrets just start piling up. And you just have to sit there in silence because you know there's nothing you can do now. Besides, you got work tomorrow. So with everything that can and will go wrong with life, it's all the more beautiful that Dorohedoro's answer to getting through it all is forming meaningful connections. Dorohedoro being filled with people who have developed bonds with one another. From the chaotic friendship of Fuchida and Ebisu, to the brotherly bond that the Cross-Eyes share. One of the deepest friendships being between two sorcerers who work as ends cleaners, Shin and Nori. Their partnership somehow both extremely wholesome in the moments they have together, and terrifying when they get serious. The start of this partnership beginning as all great friendships do, with someone getting bashed in the head with a hammer, prior to that Shin having dined and dashed and getting caught by Nori in the street. Thinking that she's there to fight him, he starts to square up, only to flash those mangled hands. Nori's so disgusted that she heals him with her magic on the spot. Then he clobs her with the back of a hammer, but not before he tells her that he owes her. In the time following, Shin becoming a guard for the very same restaurant in order to get a chance to meet the person who healed them. Eventually finding out that she's a devil in training, in the final stage before achieving that goal. All goes well until a few days before the year is up. Shin and Nori getting ambushed by a pair of sorcerers. Both of them easily take them out until the very last moment when Nori lets her guard down and gets shot at, only to have Shin jump in and save her. With Shin dying in front of her, he tells her not to heal him so that she doesn't waste all the training she's done to become a devil, but Nori heals him anyways. After that, Shin blaming himself for her losing the chance to become a devil, only to unexpectedly see her again and become partners working on their end. The two of them forming a bond that's only grown over time, their friendship a sliver of beauty in a world that seems so self-centered. So, in a world of such violence and carnage, what happens when your ambition for something is more than your care for someone? Kaiman has always been a caring, if not very goofy character, saving Nikaido on numerous occasions. So when Nikaido gets captured by En, it was no different. Kaiman venturing into the sorcerer's realm to save his closest friend. But this time, things wouldn't be so easy. Once En had discovered that Nikaido was a time sorcerer, the one sorcerer he's been searching for all this time, the person that could get him the answers he's wanted for so long, he forced her into a contract with him, slowly altering Nikaido to bend to his will. So when Kaiman finally gets to her, she's a completely different person. Their friendship mattering nothing to her anymore. All she sees now, an incompatibility. A human and a sorcerer. Two people that can't coexist. A difference that's all the more noticeable when they fight. Nikaido easily beating up Kaiman, This is until suddenly, out of the darkness, a knife stabs Nikaido, miraculously not killing her, but making the contract fall out. Nikaido slowly regaining her sense of self. Now the biggest question being, who else is there in the darkness besides Kaiman? But there isn't time for questions. Kaiman and Nikaido quickly escaping En's capture for now, though this would prove to be impossible, En eventually finding the two and coming with a vengeance, Kaiman hardly standing a chance, but that wouldn't be the worst part of the fight. The real tragedy being that, by killing Kaiman, who he truly was would start to emerge. Throughout all this time, there's been something brewing inside Kaiman, a feeling that he's done something terrible. Then he remembers. He's killed his friend. Because his friend was the one thing he hated most. He was a sorcerer. Deep down in him, a visceral desire to destroy all sorcerers coming from when he was a kid. That kid, a human wanting nothing more than to become a sorcerer. Unfortunately, things could never be that easy. No matter how hard he tried, I would fail to produce magic. That is until, when on a search for magic victims, he sees someone drowning in a pond of sludge. For some reason jumping in to save the person. As a result, he would be on the verge of death. And all not to even save someone who turned out to be a sorcerer. But this is exactly what he wanted. Now, the only way to potentially save him was to perform an operation with a dying sorcerer. The last piece to the puzzle I had been researching about all this time. I's one wish to the doctor? For him to not die a human. And somehow, he would survive the operation, but at the price of losing who he used to be. As it turns out, the black sludge oozing throughout the hole would be residue from all the countless victims of magic throughout the years, the deep resentment against sorcerers infusing into the sludge. So now, that spirit would slowly take over I, and turn him into something different. A being named Kai, as well as the eventual founder of the Cross Eyes. Now, that being would start to emerge from Kaiman with one mission: kill En. Once he gets to En's mansion, he will run into someone else first though, Nikaido. She would quickly recognize her familiar companion and start to pester him to take off the mask. Something that Kai gets annoyed at, and as it goes, the two start a wrestle. Kai eventually giving in to taking off his mask one last time in a short moment of comfort before this. This panel is devastating. Nikaido, who through this time since being captured again by En, has just been a husk of a person. After thinking she would never see Kaiman again, after thinking he was dead, all of those emotions, and to just get indifference, to be seemingly forgotten and ignored. Her sitting there wondering if the time she spent with Kaiman means nothing, probably wondering what's gonna happen now, if the person she's cared about so much will ever return. And the worst part is, Kai gets what he wants. He kills En. He has accomplished something so unlikely that it will shake up the entire landscape of the sorcerer's world. In any other case, it would probably be seen as a victory, but in this case, how could you? Accomplishing something means nothing when you've abandoned everything: friends, a home, your very sense of self. And this is what makes Dorohedoro so special in my eyes, because it's not a story about good versus evil, or some teenager becoming the most dominant force in the world since Shaq. It's a story about facing yourself, finding out who you really are, defeating the urge to become nihilistic and hateful, and making meaningful bonds on that journey. The rest of the manga being devoted to hunting down Kai and bringing back those who are dear. For Nikaido, that's Kaiman. For our gang of sorcerers, it's En. It's weird to think about that a manga that looks like it can only be read while sipping hard liquor and listening to heavy metal could be about something like friendship, but it really is. At the end of the day, I think that's beautiful. And if this horribly explained video has given you any semblance of interest in reading this manga, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. I've spoiled a lot of things here, but I'm not joking when I say the story gets even crazier. And with the second season of the show coming out soon, I think now is a better time than ever to dive into this insane manga. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.